Yeah, so we got cut off.
GM friends, we were doing a video and we got rugged. So we'll start over. I think one of the things I want to discuss, I'm again here with Jake Newman in Sarasota, Florida. Has gotten a little chilly on us, and yeah, we're having a good time geeking out. I mean, we've been, yeah, we're way down the rabbit hole on some geeky shit. But what we're having fun with, and what we've been experimenting a lot with lately, along with a number of other developers. Shout out to Moose, the Brainiac, behind a lot of these V3 concepts that, as far as in our circle that we're learning from. B Dot, Easy, even though they don't get along, right? But
Information doesn't need to.
Yeah.
If it's right, it's right.
Yeah, and plenty of other guys. I know you've been talking with other people on Telegram and other developers, and then we also just watch a lot of projects, how they roll out with V3 pools, and just learn just from observing, even from projects where we don't know the developers. But all that to say, the Uniswap version 3, which came out probably over a year ago, it runs right now on pretty much every project, still launches with the Uniswap version 2, and then there's the opportunity to use Uniswap version 3. You don't have to use V2 anymore, but there are some advantages to doing both, and there's advantages to each structure and setup, and there's some disadvantages to both. So I guess Jake, starting off, and obviously this is Jake Newman of Jake Newman Enterprises, ticker JNE, and thousands of other tickers. What's the difference between V2 and V3 for like the layman, your average crypto degen?
The primary difference is that Uniswap V2 operates on full range, meaning you need to have equal parts of Ethereum or another token to the matched token that you have, and it needs to be equal value, equal parts, and that creates basically a 50-50 range where, as the automated market algorithms move back and forth, the prices stay impacted, and whoever's running the pool will have a little more of one or a little more of the other, and it's kept in balance, it's kept in range. Now the difference between that and V3 is with V3 you can set up one-sided ranges, and with the one-sided range you only need one token to operate on that side, and those can operate both as from a developer standpoint, operate as very much a conscious way of launching, because you don't have to supply Ethereum before you're launching. And from the standpoint of from a user, there's advantages to using them for limit orders. So you can create limit orders by setting up tokens at a certain high amount, and setting up Ethereum at a certain low amount. As the prices move up and down, you will be able to collect tokens or Ethereum in either direction without causing red or green candles, because you are actually supplying liquidity to the project. You're simply part of the infrastructure.
And you'll want to do that like in a narrow range instead of definitely not a full range if you're trying to take that approach with it as a community member. And that's very different, obviously, than a project team should not engage in this type of stuff.
So there will be links posted within the description here that describe exactly how these types of concepts are done. There's even ways to operate UV3 pools in a similar type of fashion that one would trade options with the same type of gains and losses. It gets complex, and we'll be posting some tutorials that we found on GitHub in the description. But the main innovation of V3 is that it takes it beyond just the simple supplying of liquidity, and empowers both users and developers to essentially hold more, to make more profit with less, and do more with less. And it's basically available on all the chains: Ethereum, Polygon, and EL2. They all support Uniswap, and it is definitely worth experimenting.
Does Base support Uniswap?
I think they are.
Okay.
I don't want to. Well, I nodded very confidently.
Yeah.
I just nodded, assuming, like, yeah, of course.
Somebody leave a comment and give me that answer, because I don't know. But
why wouldn't?
I haven't messed around on Base yet, so besides like FrentTech and some of that stupid stuff.
So Polygon uses they support V3 For V2, they also support it, but a lot of people like to use something called QuickSwap, which is essentially a fork of Uniswap that's on Polygon. All these things like Pancake Swap, Sushi Swap, they're just direct copy paste of the Uniswap code, and they all essentially function the exact same way. Uniswap seems to have the most volume.
Yeah, and we are in this area of swamp where Jared Gray from Sushi Swap lives as well. So,
Oh,
yeah, I play poker with him. But yeah, so there's some interesting things, I guess, to point out, especially if you haven't interacted or set up your own pools. You receive something different back from a V2 pool when you create it versus when you create a Uniswap V3 pool.
And that's another thing.
And so that's a big distinction to get
that's
into.
another thing, the percentages. So UV3 pools, UV2 will at max pay 0.3% exchange rates. With the UV3 pool, you have the option of setting the rate that you want for the exchange. Everything as low as 0.01 for stable coin pairs to 1% for more exotic pairs or more volatile pairs. And those 1% Uniswap pairs, that's where it's at. Because if you can get a project launch in there that's gaining $1 million of volume within the first day and then hundreds of thousands in the subsequent days, 1% of that is nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, absolutely not. But and even and if you're doing that, even if it's trading within a narrow range, if you set up a V3 pool within that range, you'll get the majority of that transaction volume through your particular pool that you set up. And obviously, all this is for community members. There's obviously very different approaches and fiduciary type responsibility, even though it's unregulated, that you need as a project founder when navigating V3 pools. And there's a lot of mishaps that you can take place by setting these up incorrectly that we've seen people blunder on.
And so like one example is if you set up a UV2 in conjunction with the UV3 and the numbers are not matched right, you can end up shortchanging yourself by selling or by having a bunch of your tokens disappear for pennies on the dollar, or vice versa, having a bunch of your Ethereums disappear at fractions of the token that they're supposed to be going for.
Yes, and either way, it's detrimental and to the project at large.
Yeah, so there's a spreadsheet. It's in the Crypto Illuminati Lounge. So if you join telegram.jakenewman.enterprises and type /Crypto Illuminati, within that group there is a liquidity pool simulator spreadsheet, which you can load it up in Excel, plug your numbers in, and then there's no surprises.
Yeah, or if you're old school, use calculator. But even with the calculator, be very careful with how you're putting it in there, and make sure you've got your numbers correctly on the top and the bottom to do your math. But I guess what I was trying to get to earlier is, like, if you're setting up for the first time a Uniswap V2 pool, you're going to get tokens back, Uniswap tokens. For the liquidity pool, and if you set up a Uniswap V3 pool, you get an NFT back, an ERC 1155 NFT, and so I think that's for people to understand as well. Is just the different mechanisms that they use to create these pools, and part of the advancement of going from V2 to V3. There's some benefits to handling it within the NFT structure. There's the new standard that came out that allowed them to do what they're doing with V3. But for project founders, I think that is a very different discussion. So, I'm a huge proponent of putting 100% of your tokens into liquidity pools at launch. But you can set up your V3 pools first before you really launch your project with an Ethereum based pool on V2.
And that actually gives the advantage of circulating the contract address as well.
Correct. Which is the other component to having a true fair launch is to be able to circulate the contract address publicly to people and not just privately to the team members ahead of launch. So with that structure, there's some really interesting things that you can do with V3 as far as, because V2 is a full range. On V3, you can set up part of your token supply to come out at specific ranges and be available to the public when your chart in your overall market cap or price per token hit certain price points, and then it also allows you to set up open-ended V3 pools where you're paired with exotic other ERC20 tokens, these exotic pairings that really open up the door for pulling volume in from other projects, and that's where my focus has mainly been because
that's key. So setting up a Uniswap V3 pool with two of your favorite coins, either your coin and another one you like, or just two of your favorites. As long as there's high volume,
which is a good distinction.
If you're the first to make a V3 pool between two tokens with high volume that have not existed yet, you will essentially just automatically gain 1% of every single transaction. So every 100 tokens that move through there, you're collecting one. And the more volume the token, the more popular it is, the bigger your pool, the more traffic you're going to get, the more tokens you will stack in there.
Yes, and you could do that as a community member. When setting them up initially as a project team, you really have to think about how you're executing your strategy, how people are coming in, what projects you want to associate yours with, where you want to pull out from other projects some liquidity, or or booster their liquidity pools. There's different techniques to use with that, and we've been experimenting a lot, and that's where my focus has mainly been, is because I'm not a trader. I'm not really a community member on many projects. My specialty is just working as a developer and kind of tokenomic strategy person with project founders to set these things up and to set their launch strategy. And I know you do a lot of that too, Jake.
Very much so.
So it's that's where it gets me excited and geeked out about V3 pools, is that structure and the ranges that you can put on those that you couldn't ever do with V2. You can have tokens come out of those different ranges and be open-ended.
Super secret limit order.
Yeah, super secret limit order.
It's not super secret because you know what to look for. You see the V3 pools, right? You see the NFTs, you see what the ranges are, but a small percentage of people are looking for that. And even if they do see it, it's just the equivalent of seeing like order books. So it's definitely an underutilized strategy that's available in 2024.
Yes, and we'll be moving forward, and especially as they get, as we dive into all the stuff they're rolling out with Uniswap V4, which should come out this year in 2024, and I think sooner rather than later. There's some really interesting things that are coming down the pipeline. I think we're going to do a lot more of these videos. I know this has been a big area of mine with project founders, and so I want to create a lot more of this type of content to really go into the weeds with this, which isn't going to appeal to a mass audience, but I hope some of you, all, at least those that are project founders, can learn from these videos and get something out of them as I talk with other developers, and as Jake and I go into. I know I did some with Easy.eth, and it's just it's fascinating to me. And the strategy is, it's my video game. This is the way that I like to entertain myself.
The more you learn, the less you know.
Yes. You can go way down the weeds and be down that rabbit hole and stuck down there, and it's hard to get back out. Anything else, Jake, you want to kind of leave people off with, thinking about V3, liquidity pools, exotic pairings with them, things like that?
So I would encourage people that if you want to experiment on UV3 pools, do it on an L2 in order to not burn your ETH with the initialization fees. Because you can learn how it works, you can learn all the ins and outs of it, playing on Polygon, AVAX, or any of your L2s, spending pennies for initialization as opposed to hundreds of dollars. So that would be the main takeaway that I would want anyone to come up with. If you want to experiment with it to learn it, there's no need to spend blow a bunch of ETH to do it. L2s, I wouldn't even mess with the test nets. Go with Polygon, go with AVAX. Those are live production environments that will give you the simulation. It's not even a simulation. That will give you the sample response that you need.
a live market with a smaller
Yeah.
market cap
the
and
sample,
smaller,
the sample
yeah,
response.
yeah, exactly, and the kind of social engineering aspect of it, that experimentation side. Um, and I guess to kind of touch on that point, Saturday I set up some V3 pools, and it was with the gas fees that day. It was $600 on Ethereum to set up per pool, and you know some of the stuff you've been doing on Polygon. I mean, what's lately? What's been the
2 to 3 cents?
2 to 3 cents to set. So that's
Yeah.
the difference as far as launching these pools based on just the gas fees on mainnet Ethereum versus a layer two. So
Yeah, it's a big deal, and the concepts is exactly the same. So if something works on L2, it'll work on mainnet Ethereum.
yeah. So if you all have any questions, pop them down the thing below, and we'll shoot some more videos and answer some of those questions and get as deep in the weeds as you all want to on these V3 structures and strategies for rolling those out as a project, or even as we discussed earlier, as a community member to facilitate the project, and also for your own personal strategy on the coming in and out, and the different things that you can do with this technology, this tool that's available to everybody. So
It's nonstop. So yeah, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Click the bell so you get alerts. Leave comments for questions. Follow Drew Roberts on Twitter, and follow Jake 0x Jake Newman on Twitter.
all right, y'all have a good one. Take care.
Take care.